Okay, now we're going to go through how to clean a gun. I'd have to say if I had $1 for every gun I'd ever seen that was dirty, I'd be retired somewhere, Caribbean. At the end of your day, discard the solution that's in the pot, in the sink, and use quite warm running water just to rinse all the solution, so the pot's clean. A little bit too hot. What you now need to do is bring the flow connection all the way out and allow the water to run through the tube whilst you're pumping back the gun, and then you can actually see in the sink here, a little bit hard to see that there, this way, is that what you're doing is allowing this to run through and you're pumping back the trigger until it runs clear. And that's the absolute minimum you need to do each night. And that's quite warm. And then you can just leave that to dry and pop it all back together the next day. So that's your daily clean, must be done every single day, the end of your spray tan session. Right, so we've come to the end of our working week, and now we're actually going to strip down our gun that needs to be done at the end of your working week. So if you finish up on a Saturday afternoon, you do it then. Finish up on a Sunday, you do it then, etc. So we've gone through the daily clean every single day. Now we're actually going to strip down our gun. Always remember to put the plug in the sink, because as you've got little O-rings, etc., you will find that things will flick off into the sink. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull down the back of the gun first. So this is the flow control. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So we'll undo that flow control, the spring, and pull back the trigger and expose the needle. Sometimes if you've got wet hands you might just need to grab it with the towel. And that's the needle. And you'll actually see there is some spray tan along the end of the needle, and so therefore the whole idea is that we need to make sure that's kept clean. So that's the back of the gun. Now the reason we don't pull off the front of the gun is that it exposes this front needle, so we pull the back off first and we protect that. Then we're going to pull off the front of the gun. So this is the flange that actually holds the directional flow. That comes off. The little plastic seal comes off, and then this nipple here actually has to come off to be clean. You just need to find the right size little spanner to do that, and it should just be pretty easy. It's usually only just finger tight, and what you'll see, this gun is about 1.5 years old. You'll see that it's got a little white O-ring in there, and you'll see that that's what the spray tan actually goes through. So if you've got a clear hole at the end, you know your little nipple's clear. If not, you've got to soak that and get that out. Also what happens is you get spray tan built up in and around this area of your gun. So we're going to strip all that down and clean it. So in a sink, make sure the plug's in. Just pop all that into, have a good soak. Be particularly careful of the so all that can go in, have a bit of a soak. Put in there. Now, all this part of the gun will get rinsed with reasonably warm hot water. Just let it run through. And you'll see the water coming out here. Keep a reasonable amount of pressure on that. Good mix down. So then we can have a good look in down the barrel, and often I like to have, you know, old toothbrush or a little brush just to give it a bit of a clean, because spray tan does actually build up And again, just give it a bit of a rinse. If you feel that your gun's particularly dirty, just get a cotton bud and clean in and around the barrel. You'd be surprised how much spray tan you can actually get out of a gun. So something you thought was clean actually had quite a bit of spray tan bronzer on the inside. So just give it a little bit of a clean. Again, make sure it comes back reasonably clear. Yep, that's what we want to happen. Wonderful. And we'll just give that another rinse. So we're just going to pat dry that off. That's all right to go. Okay. So what we're going to do now is actually put our gun back together in the opposite way. So once everything's been rinsed, and if there's a little bit of spray tan on things, just give it a little bit of a scrub with the brush. Particularly in the little areas that tend to block up. I can give them a little bit of a rinse. Just pay particular attention to the little nipple here, that you don't lose that little O-ring, because otherwise you will get leak from the front of your gun. And just let that run through until clear. You can see if that's actually coming through there. So I'm happy that that's clean. Okay. So now we're just going to set out our gun how we pulled it apart, because that's how we're going to pop it back together again. Okay, so now what we will go through and do is dry each part of the gun. Let's with a towel. Let's dry each part off. Or you can just leave it sit on the bench over the weekend and come back in Monday morning or whenever you next spray tan and put it all together then. So it's personal choice really what we'd like to do. Now what we're going to do is actually use a little bit of what we call gun cleaner. Now it's a little trick that we do use. We pop some gun cleaner in a pot. And of course we're using Solaire gun cleaner. And it's really nice just to coat everything just with a very light coat of gun cleaner. Anything that's metal, and what it does is just protects the actual metal and from spray tan actually sticking to anything. So it's really nice just to give it a little coat. Some people just pop it in the pot and spray it through when they're finished. We can do that as well. Okay. So now we're going to pop it all back together. So we're going to pop the nipple back first. So just be very careful that you don't cross thread it. So you've got the little, so finger tight is normally enough. Then we're going to get the flange. Numbers go to the outside, and that sits in and actually clips in to those little. Directional flow goes on, and it's all held together, and that doesn't need to be tight either, so you can actually turn. Then what we're going to do is take the needle and thread it in through the back and through here. We're going to get a little bit of gun lube and just between our fingers pop it on the spring. And you can pop a little bit on the needle if you're finding after a little while your needle gets a little bit stuck. And then we're going to pop our screw back in. And I sometimes pop a little bit of gun lube on that as well. Sometimes you feel it's getting a little bit hard to turn or it squeaks a little bit. So then you're right to use your gun again. And it should move quite freely. If you don't want to pop all your parts in gun cleaner, you can actually grab some gun cleaner, pop it in through your gun that you're assembled, reconnect and spray it through, and then just let it all dry. So just tip out the gun cleaner, rinse that out, and just let your gun all dry, because the gun cleaner actually coats all the metal parts, and so you can just leave that like that. Then reassemble all your gun once it's all dry, ready to use again. And that's your weekly clean. It's very simple, and it will save you a lot of money and a lot of headaches.